Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. Hope you guys are having a great, let's see where we're at, Thursday. Get lost in the week there. We are here with Stephanie Paulson tonight. You want to say hi, Stephanie?
Hi.
She's going to be sharing a few of the products that will be leaving us soon and heading into the vault. And so she wanted to give you guys a sneak peek at those and share some of the things that she's created and any ideas and inspiration that she has. So I'm excited to see what she's got, and hopefully you guys have some projects and are gonna play along with her tonight. I think she has a fun sketch, right? Stephanie, you're doing a sketch challenge?
Yes, we're doing just kind of a generic sketch.
Awesome. Okay, so I think she's gonna turn that generic sketch into something really fun. So I'm excited to see. All right, Stephanie, I'm going to turn it over to you. Are you seeing people join you?
I see one comment.
Okay. So you might need to maybe refresh your page and see if more people jump on. Usually it takes a few minutes so for people to get on. So you should be.
Oh, yep. I see. Hi, is it Detra and Linda?
Okay, awesome. So you've got some people with you. All right, well, I'm going to turn it over to you and I'm going to jump out and you guys have fun.
Sounds great. Thanks, Mindy.
Yeah.
So hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me here tonight. I want to start I thought I would introduce myself really quick since I have not done a Craft-In live before. I am Stephanie. I live in Minnesota. I have two daughters. They are 7 and 10, and I have two cute little Boston Terriers. And I obviously enjoy scrapbooking. I'm a creative partner with Kiwi Lane, and one of my favorite things is taking a sketch and kind of making it my own. I really like to have a framework to start working in, but kind of be able to do my own thing with it. Ooh, can you guys still hear me? I'm trying to refresh the comments. Can you guys still hear me, or did I die? It says it's still live, so I'm gonna try to keep going. My Zoom said recording stopped, so I'm not sure what we've got here. But I wanted to show you guys a few of the template sets that are, thank you. I wanted to show you a few of the template sets that are retiring and, play a little bit with those with kind of a generic sketch. So we have Tiny Notations retiring, just kind of trying to show you the shapes in that. Like the shield and this little guy, I like to use a lot for sentiment cards. These little banners and arrows can be fun for, honestly, I use them mostly probably to stamp on a card. And then this, kind of scallop circle is honestly one of my favorites. I've used that for journaling blocks, and I'm pretty sure I have a plan for that for tonight. We have the Enchanted set, which can be princessy themed. If you grab your little critter a la carte with the hat or the bow, you can kind of get a Mickey and Minnie going. You've got a butterfly or fairy wings. You could make a princess wand with the stars. I see a lot of things that could happen with that. And then we have Tiny Nature. Then we have Accents, which the large Accents is the regular size one is retiring. I don't believe the tiny one is, but I like to use them together a lot to layer. I use probably mostly the flowers in that set because I have girls, but then we have Arrows, which don't mind my little bent thing here. That's how it fits in my little case. But one of my favorite arrows is this really curvy one because you can put a circle, a journaling block, you can put it around the edge of a picture. You can put a flower inside it. I just think there's a lot of fun things to do with that. So that's kind of where I'm going with it. And I grabbed a few different borders. So I apologize, I'm not seeing the comments real time, so I'm kind of trying to refresh this to keep up with you guys, just in case anybody has comments or questions. I see a lot of you joining in. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. So I pulled this sketch. The reason I chose this sketch was because I liked that it had some different size photos. It had a journaling area. It kind of seemed balanced without being completely symmetrical. And I thought these side areas would be a fun way to use a Kiwi Lane border shape. And then, you know, some accents, not accents, accessories, maybe accents, but maybe some of the other sets kind of in these areas. So that's my vision for this. You guys can kind of make it anything you want. And that's why I wanted to pick a plain sketch that wasn't, you know, summer theme, Christmas theme, girl theme, boy theme, you know, it can kind of be anything you want it to be. So I pulled out a few of my favorite borders, which I really like Cascade Trails. I like the shapes that it just adds. Eli Avenue and McKay Boulevard, because I thought I might get a little fancy with some of this, and some scallops. And then I had pulled out my Funky Frills, which is the original border that had, you know, that can border the other regular ones with Aspen Court, because I just wanted that smooth one with the wave around it maybe as an option. So when I'm looking at a sketch challenge, the first thing I do is decide what I want to do with my borders. So one of the thoughts I had was to do something kind of like this, and I'm going to have you guys kind of help me pick which one you like. I'm going to do a few things here. So this is the Funky Frills with Aspen Court. So we could do something like that for our borders. Or I'll just take one side down. Or I thought about like a McKay, which I would probably keep it a little bit thinner just so I have plenty of room for this picture area. And then I wanted, or my other concept was a scallop, or we could even do something like this and put some back to back and show both. So I don't know. What do you guys think? What are you feeling? Anybody have an opinion? I think my comments are a little bit behind, so bear with me. All right, I see a vote for Aspen, so we are going to use that one. Decision made. So I'm going to set the rest of my borders aside because I'm not going to need those tonight. So we'll lay that out. Then I have done, you know, some different ideas. So a couple of things I was thinking is I just wanted to show you what I mean by some of this for those of you who haven't seen this and might be new. Like Enchanted, if you do this hat, it reminds me of that little Sorcerer Mickey Mouse guy, right? And you could do that and make your Minnie Mouse. So you could put one up here and one down here if you had a Disney layout. Something like that I think would be really fun. I personally don't have Disney pictures because I haven't been there with my kids yet. If you wanted to do a princess theme, you could, you know, put this up here, do your magic wand and put a crown, or do it the other way. Or you could do a magic wand and make a little fairy. So there's a lot of options with that set. I'm not going to use that set tonight, but I at least wanted to show you guys that set because I'm not sure if that's being featured in the other craft-ins, and that is one of the ones that's going away. So if you don't have it and you love the options, I highly recommend. And if you have been to Disney and have Disney pictures or plan to go to Disney, I think that Enchanted and that little critter a la carte are definitely a way to go to get some cute Disney options as well. Some of the other options are actually, here's what I'm going to do. I apologize. I wanted to have photos printed ahead of time and work got crazy this week, and I did not have time to get to it. So I will be doing the layout with you guys tonight, and I will be adding some pictures afterwards and then posting my finished layout. So the options I had that I had photos kind of ready to print for are a fall layout with my kids where we went to a corn maze and did some fall themed activities. And then I also have some butterfly garden pictures from our local zoo a few years ago. So I thought I would do either do something fall or something spring summer. I got out the 4x6, 4x5, 4x4, and 3x4 photos. The reason I use these sizes is because I print mostly on my Canon selfie. So it's essentially, I did print a couple. It's essentially a 4x6 photo once you cut off the edges. Not quite a true 4x6, but close. So sometimes I do 4x6 or 4x5, or I even cut them square. Or I do like this one where I can print 2 to a page, and then I kind of use the 3x4 for both of those. So those are the sizes I use most commonly, and that's why I pulled those out, because that's how I print most of my pictures. So if I kind of lay out where I'm going to want some of my photos, I like to fit a lot of photos to a page, which is another reason I picked this particular layout. I'm actually thinking I kind of want them maybe like that. And what if I put these guys here? I don't know. I may just do something a little bit different with the photos. I'm thinking I might put these here and put this here and put something in the middle. And then on the other page, we're going to put another photo. And then a journaling block, or we could even do a couple smaller photos, depending on what I end up with. So I'm not going to probably cut the mats quite yet. But then one of my other favorite things to do is for the journaling blocks. I know these are not retiring templates, but we have the captions and the expressions. I absolutely love these templates. So, you know, I could put something like that there for my journaling. That scallop, you know, almost goes with the wave. Or captions 5, that one's kind of a pretty shape. This is another one of my favorites I use all the time, is captions 4. I absolutely love the shape of this. I'm actually wondering, what if this is the fun part about playing with it, is you don't have to match the sketch. You can kind of do whatever you want. So what if I do something like that? And maybe I'll tilt a couple together. I could do something a little kind of funky over here and over here. Maybe to balance it out, I put those down there and put that up there, just because I've got 2 here and 2 here. I kind of like that. So, sorry, I'm not doing a good job of keeping up with the comments. Let me just check that real briefly just to make sure nobody has questions. Jackie has a question about the borders. The borders I have are Funky Frills 1B and 1A, and Aspen Court 3B and 3A. So I've got the B's on this side and the A's over on this side. So I feel like I might do something like this and have an arrow coming out and pointing at my pictures. Or I even like to do it like this and point it at my journaling block. So something like that. Or have it come out. Yeah. My hands are not working well today. So perhaps I have that coming out of my journaling block and pointing at my photo because I'm explaining what's going on in that photo. Or I can put it here, point it at my pictures, and then I can really start having fun. I can put my little tiny notations guy there. Look at how nicely that fits right inside the circle on the arrow. So if I'm doing my butterfly garden pictures, I can, sorry, I want tiny nature, not big nature. I could put a little butterfly inside that and pop it out a little bit. Or if I'm doing my fall layout, I could put some leaves inside there. I might even consider, if I'm doing the fall layout, I feel like I would want to put that up here. And the reason for that is because the other fun thing to do with tiny nature is to take this little arrow, not use the top part, and take the flower, and now I have a tree. So I could make it an apple tree because here in the Midwest, apples are big in the fall, or it could just be a tree. I could even have my little butterfly coming out of the tree or have my little butterfly kind of in the middle of the page. So I could even do that probably for the butterfly garden layout and put something else up here. So I think it gives a lot of fun options for different things you can do. Or if I decide not to use the nature and to put the arrow back on my journaling block, and do that because I really like that arrow and I really want to use it. Accents. So there's the big accents. You know, there's a couple different flowers. If you don't have girls or don't want something girly, there's the star. That's great for boys. You know, that could be a sun. It could be kind of a starburst. There's a little blob. There's a little gear that can be really fun if you have, you know, robotics, Legos, even boys doing trucks and building stuff. You know, the gear can be fun. But for accents, you know, maybe I would put a flower in each spot on each side. And then the other thing I really like about accents is that there's a matching tiny set. So with the tiny set, I'm going to move this over on the black just so you can see it really well. You can either layer it like this, so you have just two-dimensional but the same shape. You can kind of put it off center, pop one out a little bit, or even do a couple of these. Or the other thing I really like to do is put it kind of askew with a different color. So you kind of have the inside of the flower and the outside. You know how flowers are sometimes wrapped around in layers. I think that can be a really fun choice. So I don't know, what are you guys thinking? I like the arrow and how you're using it, Jackie. I like it too. I kind of am feeling, I feel like this layout, but I don't know if I want to do the flowers and do a butterfly garden picture, or if I want to do kind of the fall layout, or I suppose I could do a spring or summer tree with the butterfly too. I don't know, there's so many choices. Really loving the tree. Okay, so let's go back to the tree. The one thing I do love about the play to create method is that you can design all sorts of stuff and then decide to go back to something you did before. You know, you don't have to make any decisions because at this point we're just designing and we haven't cut anything yet. So we still can make changes. All right, my little arrow, bear with me. I have just this little tray here that I bought on Amazon because the Kiwi Lane tray is retired before my time. So I need to find the little arrow because it fell in the wrong spot. Here it is. I had just pulled out the templates I kind of plan to use for this. So if I kind of put a little tree there on my border. And then maybe we do that. I'm kind of feeling the butterfly garden. So here's my other thought. Nature also has a larger set. I think the tiny nature tree is the right size, but I could have a couple butterflies. So I could have a little one over here or over here, and then I could maybe have a big one over here. What do you guys think of that? Would that be fun? And maybe layer it with something like that. Or I could even layer it with a big flower. Maybe that's where I use accents. Maybe. What about a big flower and a little flower and a butterfly kind of somehow layered? Do we like that? Tree and butterfly. Patty, some of these are being discontinued. The larger accents set, the larger of the two with these shapes is retiring, but the smaller one, this size is still going to be available. For nature, the tiny set is retiring and going into the vault, but the larger set will still be available. This arrow set is also retiring. The borders are not retiring. The captions are still on the newer side. I think those have been around maybe a year, year and a half. And I'm suspecting that we'll probably have these photo sets forever because they're just super helpful to lay out your page. So I'm thinking we've got something like that going, or I may just use two of the small butterfly and put one over here and one over here. I don't know. Or do a couple little flowers over here. We'll decide when we get there. So I'm thinking it's going to be butterfly garden pictures, which are pictures I do not have printed out yet. So as soon as we're done here tonight, I will print them out. I will finish my page because I don't want you guys to have to listen to my printer go, and it takes a little while. And then I will share a picture of my page. So this is kind of what we got. This is my rough outline. I'm actually just going to take a quick picture of this on my tablet so that I don't lose how I had it laid out, because then I'm going to switch to using actual paper. Maybe I'm not because my tablet's dead. I think I'm just going to really carefully move these off to the side. I used the black paper as a background for designing, just so you guys could see very easily what I was doing, because sometimes when you use like a medium or a lighter color background, you can't see the templates really well on camera. And I know I've watched other videos where I've struggled to see the templates, so I wanted to make sure that wasn't the case. So my next question for you guys is, I pulled some of my Kiwi Lane paper kits that are still available because I hate to show things that are retired that you can't find. This was maybe going to be my fall layout one, and we're doing the butterfly garden pictures. So we've got Bright Side, which is, you know, bright colors, orange, yellow, green, turquoise. Or we have Bloom, which is a little bit more pastel, kind of aquas, pinks, reds, blues. So what do you guys think? Do you feel like bright colors or pastel colors? My butterfly garden pictures are fairly bright colors. There's a lot of, I feel like there were a lot of like yellow and orange butterflies in there. So I really think it could go either way. All right, I'm seeing a few votes. I see a bloom, a couple blooms, a couple bright sides. I can't decide. I'm gonna go with bright side because I have not used that one as much, and I have used bloom on a lot of layouts. So once again, I'm just gonna show you guys the sketch real quick, just as a reminder. So this is where we started. Then we added our borders. We switched up the photo placement a little bit, kind of kept the journal placement the same, and added some accessories. So, don't mind my crinkling. I'm gonna do this really quick, like ripping off a Band-Aid. I always keep a trash can next to me when I scrapbook. I don't know if you guys do the same thing. So, I always look for the background sheets. So it looks like these two match and these two match. I think I'm going to use the solid turquoise because, like I said, my pictures have a lot of yellows and oranges. So I would rather that be the accent than the background. And I think that's all kind of going to pop on here. And then I can save like the green color to use for the top of the tree. I know you don't have to stay consistent with stuff like that, but when it works out, I like to do it. Oh, let me shift here. I think my phone got bumped a little and isn't showing. All right. It wasn't showing the edge of the page really good. So Natalie, you're using Brightside with me. That's awesome. Natalie actually happens to be a friend of mine who lives about a mile away. So it's kind of funny that we're scrapbooking together online at the same time. So now I'm gonna kind of work backwards. So I have my tree. For my tree, I'm going to want to use the green for the top of the tree, which means I'm going to use some green for some other accents too. I'm kind of narrowing down what I don't want my border to be, because if you remember that tree, the top of the tree was kind of over top of the aspen border. So my thoughts, I really like to take borders that are stripes like this and use them sideways so you get a little bit of the whole thing. So my thought is that this is going to be my aspen court borders. Oh, I didn't get my paper trimmer out. Give me just a moment. I had all my other supplies ready to go. So I know when Susan does this, she marks one of her, you know, we all do it the same, I think, where we draw one of the templates. But some people, I know in a lot of Susan's lives, she kind of holds this up and marks the edges. I don't like to do that because for some reason, I just never trim it in quite the right place and it really bothers me. So what I like to do is hold them together. I always have this mat in front of me that has a ruler on it. And I like to see how together they are. So that if you put both together, it is about 3.5 inches. So I just put it on my 3.5 inch mark. Make sure I straighten that out really good. And cut. That is how I do mine. So just slightly different than some of what I've seen in the other videos, but it's something that works really well with me. And again, it doesn't matter if you cut perfectly. You can see some of my cuts are a little bit off if that shows up well. You can see some of my pencil marks, but once I ink the edges, that's going to go away. So we've cut our aspen borders. I'm going to put those away. Then we have the border that's going to peek out behind it, which I think because this is so busy, I want a little bit more of a solid color. I'm taking the two other matching background sheets and I'm setting those aside just so I don't accidentally cut them, because I'm going to want to use those as background sheets on my next layout that I do with this kit. So our options for solids are kind of a white, which, you know, would just stick out a little bit behind that with the turquoise. We could do orange. Yeah. So you'd have just a little bit of orange showing with that kind of wavy scallopy pattern between the color and the turquoise. There is a pretty yellow like that. There is another orange. We could use the green because the tree is going to be over here, not over here. But I don't want to use the green because there's no green in this actual border, and I just think that looks kind of funny. Maybe it looks fine, but it's just not me. Or there's another bright yellow. So let me know if anybody has a strong opinion if you're feeling yellow or orange. I think I'm leaning toward the yellow, but if everybody says orange, I might change my mind. So far, I see a vote for orange and a vote for yellow. Yellow's too matchy. Okay. So we'll do the orange. So again, for my purpose, I measure the two together. So I'm going from the 6-inch mark to the 10.5-inch mark. That is 4.5 inches. I always like to check the back because if the pattern goes a certain way, that might depend if I cut it this way or this way, because to me, this sheet looks about the same both ways. So we said 4.5 inches. Sometimes I trace first, sometimes I cut first. I'm not real consistent with that. One thing I always do consistently is I like to frame my page with my borders. And for the point of this live, I did do my whole design before I started cutting and doing my borders. I still maybe have a couple of accessories that I'm deciding which one I want to use. But sometimes when I design, I just pick borders and throw the borders on the page before I design anything else, because sometimes it helps give me a vision for what I want to use when I have my borders on the page. Maybe that's a little backwards for some people, but or sometimes I pick my accessories and I know what I want before I pick my borders, so I can try to pick something that kind of coordinates. I just realized, kind of funny, my Caterpillar trimmer almost identically matches that green sheet of paper that's underneath it. Who knew I'd be color coordinated tonight? Anybody else feel nervous when people are watching you cut? For some reason, I'm having a hard time getting in there. So I'm just going to go at it from the other side. And just trim a little extra so it's not a rough edge. All right, so we have a border for this side. And we have, I'm just gonna set my paper trimmer on my chair behind me. I'm standing up right now. Thankfully, my craft table area is counter height, so it's nice that it kind of gives me the option to sit or stand. I was kind of sitting while I was designing, and now that I'm doing and grabbing stuff from everywhere. So I'm just setting those on there. I'm gonna ink these first before I start with my accessories. I know a lot of people either pick a color of ink or use every color of ink. Again, I feel like I maybe have my own style here. I use three. I have a brown, a gray, and kind of a denim blue. I feel like between the three, like one of them always works with something. For this one, I'm gonna go with the blue. Honestly, this faded jeans color, it's my favorite. So, plus, I mean, I know the vintage photo did just come back in stock, but for a while, you couldn't get the pads or the re-anchors because they were all out of stock for a while. So faded jeans became my best friend when I couldn't re-ink or replace my vintage photo ink pad. I am going to ink all the sides of this because I'm not going to put a border against the edge. I'm just going to let this be the edge. Hopefully some of you have some good ideas and are creating along with me. And I hope that afterwards, when this posts, I would love it if you guys would share what you made in the comments too. The other thing I thought would be fun about this sketch is both pages were similar but different. So I thought if you were a person who liked one-page sketches better than two-page layouts in your books, you could really just pick a page. You could even take one and do just, you know, put it on the top or the bottom and do your page that way if you wanted a single page. You could even turn them around for a two-page layout if you really wanted. But usually when I do a sketch, I kind of try to keep the high level larger elements where they were. So even though instead of a bunch of, you know, squares and rectangles and circles, I'm using fun shapes and wavy borders, I still consider that the border area and I'm keeping it in the same place, if that makes sense. I'm good at making things pretty. I'm not always good at coming up with the original ideas. That's why I love the Kiwi Lane idea books, and I love to search Pinterest and Google images for scrapbook sketches because I always like to try new ideas. I have a little scrapbook group with some of the ladies I retreat with and some local friends who scrapbook. And I throw out a monthly sketch challenge just for fun because I think it's always fun to have some inspiration. And some months a lot of people play, some months one or two people play. Depends on how busy everyone is, but I think it's super fun. I absolutely love sketch challenges. So I thought this would just be fun. And I would love to see what you all create. And if it's anywhere similar to what I'm doing or if it's totally different. Either way, I think it'll be a lot of fun. Yep. I'm going to throw away this ink pad. It's getting really yucky. I just realized my ink pad was shedding all over my paper or my blotter, whatever you call it, blender. I don't know. So there's my borders inked and ready to go. I'm just going to go ahead and stick those down because I know exactly where those are going to go. And that's not one of the elements that I believe I'm going to move around at any point. So I usually try to get the border fairly close to the edge, but still see a little bit of the paper around it. But the farther to the right I get it, the more room I have in this area for my photos and my other embellishments. So that's my method, the method to my madness, or whatever you may want to call it. We all have our own things, right? I'm going to line it up on this side. So I'm going to overlap just a little bit, but not a lot. I also find, I don't know if it's because I turn the papers different ways. Sometimes one paper is either a little bigger than the other, or maybe I use this side on one and this side another. And that's why they line up here, but not here. So at the end, I just throw it in my paper trimmer and cut off those little extra spots. And then I ink it again. Or sometimes I'll even cut it freehand with my scissors and just ink that edge again to make it crisp. But I won't do that till I'm all done, just in case I get a photo mat or something near the edge. So again, I'm going to line up the edge that's goes closer to make sure I've got about that same amount of gap. I happen to be an accountant, so I'm a little bit, OCD, whatever you want to call it, but that's the other reason I like to do layouts like this, where the borders don't go across, because if they go across and it ends up off by like, a fraction, an eighth of an inch or something, it kind of bugs me, even though in an album you probably can't tell the difference, because in an album you're going to get that spacing between your pages. But I'm probably not the only person that bothers. Cassandra, you just got a cutter pillar crop today, or just opened it? That's awesome. I just bought mine with my Christmas money. I had it on my list for a couple of years and I finally went for it. So straight edge to edge cast. So you put the hard or the straight edge over here and then you have the waves coming this way. That is definitely another way to do it. I often do that if I put the borders on the bottom for some reason, or sometimes I will flip one this way and one this way. So you've got shapes coming out both sides. It just depends. For this layout, I wanted the straighter edge here just because when I look at the sketch, that's a pretty clean edge there. And then that's kind of my focal point in the middle. So that's the reason I did it this way for this sketch. I am not always consistent, but I like to switch it up so my layouts don't all look the same, which is honestly one of the things I was excited about when I found Kiwi Lane a few years ago, is that I was kind of feeling like everything I did, it had different pictures, it had different words on it, but the style was the same from page to page. And since I've been doing this method, at least for parts of my pages, now I feel like I can look through an album and each page looks uniquely different and is really fun to see. I also didn't used to journal at all on my pages, and that's something I've gotten a lot better about, because I realized, a couple of years ago, my grandfather passed. A few years before that, my grandmother passed. So I'm realizing there are a lot of things that I want to document so that I don't forget them. And then I'm thinking I need to document those things with my children too, because there's things they're going to forget. So if I don't write it down, someday they're going to want to know, or their children's children are going to want to know about their childhood. So I think, that's a lot of fun, because, I like looking back at pictures of my grandparents when they were younger, before I knew them, and things like that. And it was a lot of fun. So, I want to document those memories, and I want to write down what we were doing. If I remember a quote from the day or whatever I remember about that day. So like a lot of people, I'm still pretty behind on my scrapbooking, but my goal is to keep fairly current. And then when I have extra time, fill in those years in between. Because at least if I'm scrapbooking stuff from the last year or two, more of that is fresh in my mind than stuff from 10 years ago. So at least if I can get that stuff journaled and then work on some of the older pages as I have time, that's my method. So, all right, moving on. I just want to put the photos back kind of where we had them. Just to remind us what the framework is that we're working around. So we had that going. And suddenly I am missing the parts to my tree. Where did they fall? Here they are. That's what happens when you have things sitting on surfaces. Ever since COVID, my craft table here in my craft room has also become my work office. So I'm an accounting manager and it's quarter end. So I've been working some long hours this week. And then today I was kind of shoving everything aside for work to make room to do this. So, all right, I'm gonna cut out my tree, the fluffy leafy part of my tree, because I know I want the green for that. So again, I'm cutting, you know, kind of around my shape, leaving just a little bit of the edge, because then I can kind of turn it in my scissors and just trim off the edge with a little more detail. I got a little bump there that I don't like. I don't care if I'm perfectly on the line because I am going to ink it, but I don't want super chunky corners because I didn't turn it smoothly. And again, I'm turning the paper that I'm holding with my hand. I'm not turning my scissors. Just helps to give you a little smoother cut. So there's my tree trunk. For my tree trunk, I think, do I want to use this darker orange or throw in a little yellow? I think the yellow is too blendy. I could even use the back side of this, use a little bit of white for that tree trunk. I'm also debating if I want to save the white, the rest of the white for my photo mats. But a lot of times, frankly, I just use plain textured cardstock for my photo mats because I just hate to waste the pretty paper when you're going to see just like 1/8 of an inch of it around the edge of something. So for this, because this end is getting buried behind the leaves, the leafy area, I just trace the two sides up to where the arrow starts. And then I make a cut across. It doesn't matter if it's exactly straight because that's going to get buried underneath it, the tree leaf part anyway, so you're not going to see it. So I'm going to ink my edge, and then we'll be done with my tree. Now, some of you may have thought of this already, but like if I decide I want to put apples on my tree, like a couple of ideas I have are to use some enamel dots to make your apples. If you have small buttons or gemstones, you could totally do that as well. Or you could even use a paper puncher on like that dark orange, almost red cardstock, just like a regular size paper punch, and punch out some pieces. So I'm thinking I want my tree probably to line right up with the bottom of the page because realistically a tree comes out of the ground. It doesn't float all over. So that's what we're doing with that. I kind of want it to cover the edge of the border. And then I'm just going to make it's not perfectly symmetrical, so I kind of want it to be a little bit askew rather than point that out per se. So we're done with Tiny Nature over there. And then we have the butterfly. I'm actually thinking I want a butterfly over here and I want a butterfly over here. And because this one is on top of this darker area, and again, like I said, most of my butterflies were either orange or yellow in my pictures. There were a lot of monarchs, and the yellow and black ones, I don't remember what they're called. I'm kind of thinking I want this really bright yellow for my butterflies. So I'm going to trace a couple of, oh. The other nice thing about pencil is that it erases when you accidentally don't hold your template still and right where you didn't mean to. I'm a fan of the mechanical pencil because it gives me a nice thin pencil line and I don't have to worry about having a pencil sharpener up here because this is pretty much the only thing I use pencil for. Just checking the comments. Kimberly said brown. I'm guessing that was for the tree trunk, but this paper kit doesn't actually have a brown in it. And this is what I had out. I suppose I could have grabbed just a little cardstock scrap from behind me, but I usually kind of like to stick with the kit because the colors are usually meant to go together. Natalie is asking what is going into the vault. Tiny Nature, Accents, the full-size one, Arrows, Tiny Notations, Enchanted, and then 2 of the holiday seasonal sets, Tiny Traditions, and I'm drawing a blank on the other one. I probably have them right next to each other here. Tiny Holiday and Tiny Traditions. I believe those are all the sets that are going into the vault. So they could be around for days, they could be around for months, but once they're gone, they're gone. They may or may not ever come back, but if they do, it will likely be a very limited release because it seems like when the old sets come back, they're either pre-order or they only make so many of them. So, or they might just bring them out for like a holiday weekend and then they might disappear again. So, and they may or may not ever come back, but if you want them, I highly suggest grabbing them now because there are a lot of things you can do with these sets. That's really a lot of fun. So we're gonna have a butterfly for up here. We're gonna have a butterfly floating over here. Do you think we should even put like a flower in the air there? I don't feel like I need to fill all the space, but I like to fill some of the space. I just feel like we maybe want like a pop of orange over here yet too. What do you guys think? You think that needs one more color? A little more orange or something over there? I'm gonna go with that. And then I'm gonna show you guys when we get there the fun things I do with flowers and the centers too. I mean, you absolutely could, you know, use the inside of the smallest ring template. You can use the inside of the tractor wheels in the country set to get flower centers. You can use a circle punch if you have one. I have this giant bag of like fun buttons and things that I love to use for my flower centers. Or I like to use little flowers like this that I think you can pretty much get at Michael's, Hobby Lobby, probably Amazon, anywhere. I like glitter, so if you put something sparkly in the middle of it and a little gemstone in the middle, that can be really fun too. So we'll pick something like that. It'll be fun. We're going to make both of the flowers like this the same paper since we did the same thing with the butterfly, the yellow butterflies. Normally, I would probably cut them this way and save more of this in case I wanted it for a future border. However, the paper kit did have a second sheet of orange, so I'm not real worried because I know that I can have more orange and I won't run out of orange if I need it for full-size sheets for borders or photo mats or whatever might need a little more real estate. So that's kind of gonna be maybe I'll tuck one behind and put one in front or something. Nah, I think the butterfly is gonna kind of get folded and kind of sit on that flower. That'll be kind of fun. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. I'm curious if you guys are creating along with me. Are you doing some of the same things, flowers, butterflies, or are you scrapbooking totally different kinds of pictures? I'm curious what your theme is that you're doing with this layout, if you know yet, or you're willing to share. That'd be a really fun thing to read when I'm done cutting. I should probably hold this out so you guys can see it better. I'm just holding it where I normally would cut. And I don't know if I told you guys this, but this is my first, it's not just my first craft in, but it's the first time I've done a live video. I have done, you know, a couple of private YouTube videos that I've shared over the years, but I've never gone live. So this is something kind of new and fun for me. And it's fun to get your interaction and have you help me choose some stuff. So we're gonna do that there. And then did I want that flower or did I want to kind of put it on a, I'm thinking if we do that, then I can pull in the green like the tree. So that's what we're gonna do. And again, I'm looking at the back to see if I want that back side, you know, if there's a pattern that matters which way I cut it. And it really doesn't. It's a lot more subtle pattern. So I can go here or here, it doesn't matter. I just want to check the comments. I want to see if anybody shared what they're working on, or maybe you're not working with me tonight, but you want to go back after we've done this and take the sketch. I did share the sketch for those of you that didn't see it. I shared it late last night in the Play to Create group. So it is out there, but once this video gets published, I will share a copy of the sketch in the comments here as well, if it's easier for you guys to find here. Sometimes I pull up a sketch on my computer screen in the background and I look at that while I scrapbook. But since I have a printer, a Wi-Fi printer outside in the hallway, I often like to just print a paper copy and use it. And then I actually have like a 3-ring binder that I throw the sketches in afterwards because I don't like to throw stuff out. And then I have, you know, that as kind of an extra idea book to share when I go to a scrapbook retreat. I also think it's really fun. I know Kiwi Lane in the last couple of monthly clubs has been putting sketches in there, not just completed layouts for ideas, but there's usually a sketch or two and some fun extra tips. So I think that's been a really fun addition to the club. And I also, if you haven't already done this, check the blog on the Kiwi Lane webpage, because if you search for the word printable, leave the S off the end because sometimes it's printable and sometimes it's printables. But if you search the word printable, you may not find every printable they have out there, but you will find a lot of printables going back like a few years. Like if I recall, I think there's Mother's Day, Father's Day, sympathy. There's some fun recent summer stuff out there. But definitely check for the free printables because sometimes they work good for sentiment cards and things for your pages. And if you're a card maker or you're like me and you like to use your scraps to make cards, it can also be a really fun way to use, you know, to make cards when you have those pre-cut sentiments. Because personally, I have stamped things on cards, but I'm not a huge stamper. I really like the idea of having sentiment cards where I can just, you know, throw a shape over top of them. You know, I'll use a bracket or something like this over my sentiment card with my scraps from a kit, and it works really nicely. I'm cutting this other flower out in the white because we used the white and gray for this tree trunk down here. So I kind of just want something that color over in the upper corner as well. My table's turning into a mess. When you guys craft, you end up setting stuff down. I have some stuff over here and over here and over here and over there. I cleaned my office to make room to do this. And when I'm done with this, I'm going to have to clean it again because, like I said, this is also my work office. So I need this clean to be able to write with my notebook, and I have video conferences tomorrow morning. Thankfully, I don't think my first meeting's till like 10 or 10:30. So worst case scenario, if I pick up my craft stuff, if I pick up the big stuff tonight, I probably have a little bit of time to pick up first thing in the morning before I might have to be camera ready and not have crap all over my table. So the other fun reason I am doing this craft in this week is because my kids happen to be in Wisconsin, which is the next state over, with my parents this week. My one daughter is with my mom and my other daughter is with my dad. And they're having like a week full of summer fun. So I just thought that was a really good time to do this because typically I can't get a few minutes in here without my kids interrupting. I may actually do this instead. I may do the white and the yellow with the green here, and I may do the orange kind of like over here somewhere. Up here, down here. I don't know, we'll see. You could do it, you know, the sketch had a little flower here. I don't like it down there though, because this is more focal. So I feel like I would either pull it down here. I'm thinking really like here or here. We'll see what happens when we cut that out. The next thing I really want to do is my journaling block. For my journaling block, one thing I like to pay attention to is what is a very subtle pattern that I can write on. And, you know, my pen is going to show up and not be distracted. So I'm thinking we either use this sheet or this it's a little bit lighter, paler yellow. I'm leaning toward the yellow really. So I'm looking at the back of here. Like these guys would actually be really fun to either cut out by hand or use a circle punch and use as the center of a flower because they coordinate with the paper. I really don't want to cut those up. I think, how big is this? I don't know. By the way, I'm wearing the smile you gave me. That's a fun little expression, but I don't know that I see using that in my own page. I'm tracing it on this side instead. I'm going to use the yellow on the back. The reason I'm tracing it on this side is to make sure I don't cut into these other areas that I may want to use for something else. And because this is a pretty symmetrical shape, it should work just fine. I only trace on the back, usually when it's stuff like this. And if your shape isn't symmetrical like what I did here, then don't forget to turn your template upside down to trace on the back so that when you flip it over, you have it going the right direction that you intended. For my butterflies, my flowers, this, my tree, pretty much all the accessories I've chosen on here It doesn't really matter if they're right side up or upside down. The only thing that would matter is the arrow. And I've actually chosen to put it upside down. If you look at the text, it goes that way, but I'm putting it this way. So that's the only thing that it really matters, that I lay it on the paper the right direction. Because if my arrow is pointing the wrong way, that kind of defeats the purpose of what we designed. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't always, sometimes I cut all the pieces and then ink all the pieces. Sometimes I ink things as I go. It just kind of depends on my mood and what I'm working around. Darlene, you tend to use stuff you haven't moved. I love that. Debbie, love the bright colors. Thank you. I love them too. That's why I decided to go with them. You're going to use a sketch this weekend at a crop. Is it Joannie? I love that. I'm kind of jealous that you have a crop this weekend. Although since my kids are out of town, I'm guessing I will find some time to create and do some other things. Cassandra, birthday and you're ready to have cake. Happy birthday to you or your family member, whoever birthday it is. Oh, your birthday. Great. Happy birthday. Hope you have some time maybe to craft over the weekend or next week. Joni, got it. Thank you for clarifying. I always try to remember how to pronounce people's names so that if I see you guys online again, I have it right. Oh, I totally inked the wrong side because I was paying attention to where I was cutting. Well, that's an easy fix. I'm not super careful or consistent with the way I ink. Some areas are thinner, some areas are thicker. I think that makes it fun. So I can either run it this way with the lines in the design, or I can run it that way, which I think is what I'm going to do. It doesn't fit perfect, but it's close. Because the background is the dark turquoise and we've got, a little green, but a lot more like teals and stuff, I have kind of a teal colored pen. I use different things. I like to use Cricut pens, the Jelly Roll pens, and I like these Micron pens. I know everybody has their own things. I've heard great things about like the ultra fine Sharpies and stuff. I don't own any of those. I have a ton of craft supplies. I'm not frugal in that way, but I have a hard time spending like $30 or $40 on a package of markers. So instead I put it on my birthday and Christmas list. I could extend this line over. I think I'm actually going to do that, but I'm going to stick everything down before I journal because I'm probably going to cover part of it with that flower. Something like that. So here's a question for you guys. This arrow right here, we have the yellow and orange going on here. Would you pull in a little more green for the arrow, or would you pull in white for the arrow? As I ask that, I'm almost feeling the green. And the reason why is I think I would use either like the white or the light gray for the photo mats, because then they're not going to interfere with my pictures, because my pictures are a lot of plants and flowers and butterflies, and there's a lot of bright colors in my pictures. Debbie, you agree? Green. I'm going with that. So we're going to do green arrow. So just to conserve paper, oh, I don't want to do that with my pen. I want to do that with my pencil. I try to kind of go around this loop a little bit so I'm not wasting as much paper. Otherwise, had I planned better, I probably could have tried to trace one of the shapes inside this. Just offset a little bit, but that's just a tiny bit. I used to save every tiny bit, and then my scrap bin got so big I couldn't handle it. So my new method is that I just kind of eyeball it, but if the scrap is smaller than a business card or a wallet size photo, you know, smaller than about this, I really don't let myself keep it. I know there are a lot of little scraps you can use for all sorts of things, especially on a card, but I have so much paper. I really don't need to save all those little tiny scraps. So that's how I've kind of cut myself off and kept my stash a little bit manageable. And then a couple times a year, I do go to a scrapbook retreat with some friends, and they have like a, you know, have a paper, take a paper sticker kind of bin. So usually when I'm there at the end of the day, I'll take out like my glitter papers, anything like super unique or stuff that still kind of coordinates that I might be able to use for cards, and keep that. And the rest of my scrap bin, I just kind of leave there. Or if they're small, I throw them out. And that's how I clean house, by not hauling all that stuff back home into my craft room. I know this isn't a session for organization tips, but it is always kind of fun to hear what other people do and share that. So hopefully that helps somebody else if your scrap bin is getting out of control, or if you're wondering what other people keep and what other people toss. Yep, you guys don't keep tiny scraps either. I think that's great. Oh, that's a good idea, Cassandra. Only if they're 12 inches long and do a border. Or I guess, if you're a card maker, even, as long as they're 5.5 or 6 inches long, you could get a card border. But if, like a piece this size, I'm not going to save. Yeah, I probably could squeeze something little out of that and stamp thanks on a card, but am I really going to do that? Probably not. I'm going to grab something that's in front of me at the time I'm working on that card. So that's kind of what we got for embellishments. Like I said, for the photo mats, I could absolutely, I don't think I have enough of this sheet left to do that many bigger mats. I probably could cut up this guy and use it, or cut up a combination of the two because they're similar colors, but I don't really want to use those because I still am going to want to make another layout out of this kit. If this was my second layout and I had that much left, I would do that in a heartbeat. And the other option is you could take that subtle print, because you're only going to see a tiny bit about it. But again, I don't want to waste that because I don't know what else I'm going to do with this kit yet. And I still have 2 background sheets plus all these options left for my kit. I guess the one other thing I didn't talk about is using this sheet in the kit. So I absolutely could, I could have cut this out and used that for my journaling block. Or I could take Life is Better in the Summer and either cut a shape into it here or use the whole card. Maybe if I print out my pictures, I may even decide to use that here or here instead of something. I don't think I will for this layout. Usually when I use a kit, I try to use one of the cards. But in this case, I feel like I really want to do this instead. And you could absolutely throw in a title, throw in a title here or down here or down, there's a lot of things you could do. I'm really kind of feeling that I'm just going to journal here because I feel like with this print and all the bright colors, there's already a lot going on. So I just worry that if I try to, put more words and things on the page, that the words and the patterns are going to fight each other. Cassandra, the paper pack is on the bright side. So this is one of the double layout kits. When I looked this morning or last night, it was still available on the site. So I believe it's still out there. And this is I believe this is one of the newer ones. So I think this is one of the ones that actually has 11 sheets of paper, but it says 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or maybe it's 10. But so this must be a hair older than I thought it was. But yeah, this is on the bright side. So it's a lot of bright colors. And again, like this would be really fun for spring, for summer. You could use it for sports because nothing's really frilly or flowery. I mean, this yellow pattern has a little bit of flowery, but for the most part, they're pretty geometric. It could be for a boy layout, for a girl layout. Like, I think there's a lot of things that would work for. So yeah, definitely one to consider. Again, I believe the paper is kind of like the vaulted scraps. I don't believe they're doing paper anymore outside of the monthly kits. So when it's gone, but I have no idea if there's a ton of paper stash left or just a little bit. I stuck my tree down. I haven't stuck anything else down yet. Oh, I wanted to look at mats too. I do have some really, just basic little mat stacks, but I really wanted something closer to a white or a light gray. This one might have some light gray in it. Something like that might not be bad. It's still a little more yellow than I wanted though. That would work pretty well, but I only have one of that color, so that doesn't do me any good. So I think for my mats, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a piece of textured cardstock. I actually have a really light gray, so you can kind of see it's not as dark as the gray, but it's a little darker than the white. I don't know if you can see that in the picture or not, but I'll show you that with the white here. So I think I'm going to use that for my mats. So I'm going to wait to cut this till I print my pictures, because depending on what I end up printing, I might make these smaller, or instead of this 4x6 here, another fun idea just to switch it up. Sorry, I set some paper on top of my photo mats. If I didn't want the 4x6, if I wanted to get a couple pictures in, I could do a couple 4x4s and overlap this. Or I could do a couple of 3x3s. If you guys don't have the photo mats, that's okay. You can always, I suppose, cut a piece of paper, but I really like, that would be like a couple 3x3, or maybe the 3.5x3.5 out of the photo mats. So there's the mini photos, the photo mats, and the photos. So the mini photos are smaller, and the photos mat the mini photos, and the mini photos, I'm sorry, the mats mat the photos. So if I want to put mats behind them, I can do that. And you could mat some of your pictures, but not all of your pictures. So maybe I'll mat the two here and the one here that I'm highlighting with my arrow, because that's going to be probably my favorite photo on the page since I'm trying to highlight that one. Or maybe I just mat one picture and not both. Or maybe I make the other one a hair bigger. So definitely some options. I like the photo mat sets instead of just using like a white piece of paper as a plate holder, because I'm going to use, so let's say I want this to be 4x4 or 3x3. If you see, you can kind of put it over there and say, okay, I want to get that alligator and I want to get her head. So this is where I'm going to cut my photo. Where if you have an opaque sheet of paper, you can't see your photo behind it and see, or does this even work for this size? Or am I going to end up saying, hey, 3x3 isn't right, I want to do 4x4, because look at that, now I can get that whole thing in the picture. Or maybe I want a 3x4, because again, I can get that whole thing. So that's where, if you're going to cut down your photos from your standard 4x6 size, or just having it cut in half, I really like these sets, both for page planning and for the purposes of being able to put your picture behind it and see where it is that you're going to trim it. So we'll stick a few more of these things down. I hope you guys can't hear my dog barking. I can hear my dog barking downstairs. It's only 7:20 here. I'm in Central Time. By about 8 o'clock, she's usually barking at us because she wants her night medicine. She turned 13 yesterday, so she's got some arthritis going on, and she wants her night medicine because she gets it rolled up in some ham, and she likes her night ham. I don't know that she knows that there's a pill in it, but she wants her night treat and she wants to go to bed. So once it gets to be like 8:30, anytime anybody walks by her, she like barks at you until you give her her night ham so she can go to bed. It's kind of funny. One of these days, if I haven't already, I'll share some pictures of my adorable little dogs. I have 2 Boston Terriers. Josie turned 13 yesterday, and Abby will be 13 in September. So they're both getting a little older, getting up there in years. Neither one can hear anymore. Josie's blind. We got a lot going on here. Love the papers. Thanks, Mary. Cassandra, you did have this kit. Awesome. Then you've used it. I've used it. This is my second one of this kit. So I did use the first kit on a couple different layouts in the past, but I haven't used it for a while. So this is kind of fun and new. The Bloom layout kit that I showed toward the beginning is another one of my favorites. And I think I've bought that 4 or 5 times. I use it on a lot of stuff because I have 2 girls. So I use a lot of flowers in my scrapbooking. A lot. So on the back of the flowers, what I like to do is just put a glue dot in the middle. I don't know if you can see that, but I just put a glue dot in the middle and I kind of fold up the edges a little bit so that you get a little bit of texture. And with the butterfly, I'm kind of going to do the same thing and fold it up a little bit. On that, I am going to use, where's my little glue dots? You could either use a thin adhesive runner, or I like to just put maybe like 3 little glue dots in a stripe, because again, I'm just going to stick down like the middle portion and let the wings kind of fly free. Sometimes I go back later and draw a little shading on some of this, but realistically, this time I'm probably not going to do that because with all the bright colors and the pictures I'm going to be adding, I really think there's going to be a lot going on here. And I don't feel the need to add a whole lot more detail. This, I'm going to put adhesive everywhere but the tip of the arrow, because that tip is probably going to go over the edge of my photo. So or at least the mat. So I'm going to stick that down, but see how this still kind of sticks up, so I can slide that photo underneath. Otherwise, what I usually do is forget to do that, and then I have to peel something up later and hope I don't rip my paper to stick stuff underneath where I really wanted it. Hopefully I'm not the only one who does that. So there's that. Oh, there it is. I'm like, where's my other orange flower? It's not orange because it's upside down. That is why I couldn't see it. That'll happen. So again, I'm fluffing up the orange a little bit. I have some pencil right here that's really bothering me. So I'm taking care of that. Getting a little more ink in there, even though it'll probably get covered with a flower center anyway. We're sticking that down. We'll stick this guy down here. Doing the same thing with my white flower, but this has 5 prongs instead of 6, so I just kind of go around it and do that. Then this uses the little dots or glue dots. Actually, I'm going to change my mind. I wasted a couple glue dots, but so be it. I am actually going to pop this guy out. So I'm going to use a couple little foam circles. I have squares, I have circles. The squares I have are about half the thickness of the circles. I think these are like 1/8 of an inch and those are 1/16 of an inch or something like that. Or maybe they're 1/8 and 1/4, I don't know. So we're gonna pop that up a little bit more. That's where it's going. So for my flower centers, let's see what I've got in. We could do a fun little button like that. I've got, that's a little too small, but it's fun, isn't it? Like rhinestoney. I have a smaller glitter button. I have some little druzy things, but I'm not seeing yellow. I have a yellow button like that. Here's what I was looking for. I have that in gold. That's kind of fun. I don't know. What do you guys think? What would you go with if it were your layout? I'm looking to see if I have anything else fun and interesting. I have a little druzy. I love glitter. I order this stuff in bulk, kind of cheap, and I just like order random assorted colors. So you get what you get, but I thought I had a yellow thing. Like some of the blue and pink stuff I'm seeing in here. Actually, with the turquoise background, you could do something like that too. That's maybe a little too big, but yep, there's a little bow there. Something like that would be fun too to pop out. Or that, if I cut the, I forget what that's called, off the back of the button, you could do something like that. I could put, you know, a fabric flower over top. I do have kind of a glitter gray, but I think that's a little too dark. I have a turquoise. I have gold, but I don't have like glittery yellow. I have a lighter turquoise. No, I don't like that. I'm not seeing anything super exciting in my flower stash for this particular color scheme. checking in with you guys again. I'm curious if anybody had opinions on the different little buttons and glittery accents. What are the borders used? Sandra, it is Aspen Court 3A and 3B is the wavy orange on the sides. I'm sorry, not Aspen, Funky Frills 1A and 1B. And then it layers with Aspen Court. So this was my Funky Frill, and then the Aspen Court goes on top of it. And you get that layered look, kind of like that. So Funky Frills 1A and B and Aspen Court 3A and B. The first button, this one. So maybe I'll put that one there, and maybe I'll do the smaller version of it in here, just because I've got the butterfly right there, so I don't have as much real estate. Or throw something a little different on there. I feel like that area may need just a little bit more sparkle. I don't know. What do you guys think? Maybe I throw the turquoise in there just to get some extra color. Something like a green would be fun too, but I'm looking through my bag and I don't know that I have much that's the right color green. I have a lot of teals and some other greens. Darker and lighter, but not really that color. Oh, and then I need something for this guy over here. How did I possibly forget about him? No, that's a little too much. What about orange? That's kind of orangish. It kind of matches, right? I'll show that up here so you can see the color. I think it matches. I think we can go with that. So with these, I do the same thing. I like to put a glue dot on the back because it just sticks a lot better than scrapbook adhesive. And personally, I don't like to use liquid glue because I just end up making a giant mess with it. So I'm going to stick those centers down. Decision made, we're done. Sometimes I put a couple glue dots just to, if it's a lot smaller. So we've inked everything. We've stuck it all down except for the photo mats and the photos, and I still have to do the journaling. But that is pretty much my layout in a nutshell. I saw again, someone was asking about what was retiring, I believe. Or did I just imagine that? So for those of you who joined later, the paper kit is on the bright side. The retiring template sets are Tiny Holiday and Tiny Traditions, which are all holiday-ish. You know, there's a lot of Halloween, Christmas, winter type things in there. So those are both going into the vault. Next week is the Christmas in July theme. So you guys will see a lot more with those sets next week. So I wanted to use the other sets, which are Tiny Nature. So that's where the tree trunk was actually an arrow. This is actually a flower that I made the tree out of. And these little butterflies came out of Tiny Nature. The larger accent set is retiring. I used the smaller accent set for my flowers. But in some of my play at the beginning, if you missed the beginning of the live, definitely go back and watch it when you have a chance, because I pulled out all of those sets and showed some things you could do with them. The Enchanted set, which is magic fairies. If you pair it with the little critter, you can get some Mickey and Minnie themed Disney kind of stuff out of it. It can be a really fun scent for all sorts of things. Tiny Notations, which is where the scallop circle came from. That's one of my favorite sets to use for cards. And I really like this scallop circle a lot for sentiment cards, you know, to put a title or something on your page as well. And the arrows set, which is 5 different kinds of arrows. And this round arrow, it's actually a semicircle. It comes to about here underneath, came from that set. So those are the things that are retiring. Once they're gone, they will go into the vault. I have no idea what the stock is like left, but if you want them, I would pick them up sooner than later, because once they're gone, they may or may not ever come back. There's no guarantee. So Linda, you're very welcome. Thanks for attending and helping us out. I want to thank you all for joining me tonight and helping me with your opinions. Once I get my photos printed out and get the mats down within the next day or two, I will probably tomorrow, I will get a really good photo and some better lighting for you guys that I can share, so that you guys can see the finished layout. I really appreciate your opinions, and I appreciate you hanging out with me here tonight on a Thursday night. And I hope to see some of your creations as well when you have, either if you created along with me or if you have time, you know, in the next week or two to circle back and do my sketch challenge. And again, for those who just joined, I just want to show a picture of the original sketch compared with the layout we have here. So this was the original sketch. So for these columns, I use borders and I put the shapes heavy down here and up here. That's what it inspired me to do. I did something a little bit different shape-wise with where the photo placement is, but I kind of kept that journaling area in the same spot. So this was the sketch. I shared it in the Play to Create group at, I think it was something like 11:45 last night. It was pretty late. So it's in there to look for it. And once this live is over and it gets published on the Kiwi Lane page, I will also put the sketch photo in the comments for anyone that wants to either pull it up or print it out and play along at home after tonight. So thanks everyone, and have a fabulous weekend.